Hey everybody, Jeff Drew's Gym Technology Management here. I'm excited to start doing these again. It's been a while since we've done some video series. My video series is called Bimpin Ain't Easy. So what we're going to be doing here is going through like little tips and tricks for Revit families and templates and just little hacks to make Bimpin easier. Mostly Revit related. So this first one today, we're going to be focusing on the MEP group, and something that everybody does is creating clearance zones. So for this one, it's going to be creating a Revit parametric family in under 5 minutes. So follow along because I'm going to go fast. So I'm going to go up here, I'm going to say File, New, Family. And then you'll see these family templates. We're going to go into this English Imperial folder here. And then we're going to go down to generic model. And I almost exclusively start all my families there because we can modify it afterwards. But when you first get in here, you'll see these two reference planes, kind of like a crosshair. This is going to be your insertion point of your family. So for me and with this family, I want to keep it perfectly centered all the time. So to do that, I'm going to add a couple more reference planes in here. So basically I'm just going to do a rectangle around the insertion point there. And then I'm going to add some dimensions across like so. And this is like essentially how I start every single family that I create. The insertion points might vary slightly, but this is the basics for creating something parametric. So I'm going to grab these dimensions and hit EQ to make sure that when I'm not locked, equal. And the reason for that is when I add a parameter to this and have this change from 5 to 3 or 8 feet or whatever, that it's always going to stay centered. So this one, so I'm going to go back here, I'm going to create a parameter, and I'm going to call this one width, and make it instance. We will get into the difference later on. And I'm going to go through and do this again, call this one length. Spelled right. And then I'm going to go in my project browser over here to one of the elevation views, and I'm going to add another reference plane. And just as FYI, I use keyboard shortcuts for like everything, so if you don't see me clicking on anything, it's RP. And then again, click the dimension, add a parameter. That's how you create a new one. I'm going to call this height and also instance. So now if I go in here and change this to like 2 feet, you'll see that because we added those parameters in there, they're driving where those reference planes are. Bam, like that. Cool. So next step here is we're going to go into create. We're going to do an extrusion, keep it super basic. And I always keep my lines like off of my reference planes. And the next step is we're going to lock these sketch lines to these reference planes like this. So AL align, it's right here. And then lock it. And then we're going to go all the way around and do that on each side. Done. And then I'm going to hit finish. And I'm going to go to an elevation view. And then I'm going to do the same on the top. And done. So now you see when I go on a 3D, and I change this to 5, 5, 5, we're driving the geometry off of those reference planes. Alright, last step here. All clearance zones typically have a red transparent material, so we're going to create one. I'm going to go in my material here, and you'll see that like when you click in here, there's these 3 little dots. That's how we get into the material editor. I'm going to edit and duplicate. I'm going to call this clearance. And then I'm going to go to my appearance. And I always hit this little information thing because this is what the material name is. And you can have different materials with the same asset. So if you change one, you might accidentally change it in newer spots. So I'm going to hit duplicate. And I'm going to call this clearance zone. I'm going to make this red. I'm going to add a transparency to it. I'm going to have that as 85%. And going back to graphics here, I'm going to say use render appearance and hit OK. So now if I go into a 3D view and I go to consistent colors, you'll see my clearance zone. Alright, so now I'm going to load this into my project and drop it in. And you'll see I can place this in numerous spots, and when I come in here I can change my parameters independent of each other. So this is how we would add this to a job, this is how we would add it to a family. The main reason that we would do this versus modeling in place is a really bad practice. It bogs down models. It's unstable geometry there. So the better practice is to have a family that we can just pull in and modify as needed. And then you get a lot of consistency on how things are done. People don't really have to think about it. Wham, bam. There you go. So again, Jeff Drews, thanks for joining today. There's going to be lots of tips and tricks like this. If there's anything specific that you want to see, just drop it in the comments and we will do plenty more Revit tips and tricks. All right, thanks everybody. Bye.